Hey everyone, welcome to Fighting Over the Card Catalog, a snarky look back on young adult novels of the 80s and 90s. I'm Jess.
I'm Steven, and I'm here to make my wife happy.
We are taking a journey to find out how many terrible, and some hopefully not so terrible books from my youth I can get my husband to read before he reconsiders this whole marriage. Hi.
Hi.
So this week we read the third book in the Babysitters Club, The Truth About Stacey.
What's up, you cool babysitters?
You did not just do that. You did not just... I might keep that in. Just for Babysitters Club episodes.
Need a babysitter? Save time. Call the Babysitters Club and reach 4 experienced babysitters. Christy Thomas, President. Claudia Kishi, Vice President. Marianne Spear, Secretary. Stacey McGill, Treasurer. The truth about Stacey is that she has diabetes. Nobody knows except her friends from the Babysitters Club. But even they don't know the real truth about Stacey. Stacey's problem is her parents. They won't admit she has the disease, and they drag her to practically every doctor in America. A little hyperbole.
A little hyperbole.
Seeing so many doctors made Stacey lose one friend, and she won't let it happen again, especially now when the Babysitters Club needs her more than ever.
So what'd you think?
It wasn't as bad as the first.
Okay.
Maybe better than the second.
Okay, we're going up. That's exciting. I think it's one of the more boring ones myself.
Yeah.
But yeah. So on the scale of best book ever to Dementor's Kiss of 10, sucking out your book-loving soul.
Probably around a 5. 4 or 5.
Okay, that's not bad.
What about you?
6.
A 6?
Yeah.
Soul sucking, huh?
Yeah, I don't love it. Okay, so let's get right into it. All right, so if y'all remember, Mrs. Newton, Ethel Mertz in my head, is hella pregnant. And so the girls think that she couldn't possibly give birth to that new baby without the BSC's help. Because obviously they'll have to watch Jamie. And so they come up with scenarios, but I don't think they ever come up with any real plans. They're like, oh, this could happen. That could happen. Oh, but then that could happen. They don't have a plan. And they discuss all, like, what time of day they were born. And Marianne doesn't know hers, but guess what? The wonderful Mimi does. Do you know what time you were born?
I've seen my birth certificate, but it's not something that stuck with me, so I don't remember.
Even if it was, like, time of day? Like morning?
No, I don't remember.
Huh. Interesting.
I remember my own kids.
That's good.
Yeah.
Were they early?
Megan was early. Mm-hmm. Megan was early morning. Because we had, like, to go to the hospital twice. Like, all the way across town in San Antonio.
Oh, no.
You know, I was in the Air Force, so the first time... my ex-wife thought she was going into labor, and so we went to the hospital, and they looked her over and said, well, you're not even dilated yet. You must be having false contractions. And said, you know, if you start having contractions, and I think they said if it's like 2 minutes apart or something like that, then they come back. And that was probably... I think we left at like around 10 p.m. for that and got home around midnight and went back to sleep. And probably around 1:30 or so, I hear her going, because we did Lamaze and stuff. Yeah. So she learned how to do the breathing and you know, so I kind of heard it and went back to sleep. And it was, I woke up, like, it seemed like just, like, it happened right away. And she started doing it again. And I woke up and I was like, how far apart was that? She said about a minute and a half. I'm like, oh, we gotta get to the
And that's like
hospital.
2 hours after you got back?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Fucking babies.
So by this time it was like storming outside. I mean, like it was a thunderstorm, like pouring down rain. So we left about 2:00 in the morning and got to the hospital probably 2:45 or so.
Oh.
And it was probably 3 to 4 hours later she was born.
Oh.
Yeah.
That didn't take very long. Good job, Megan.
Yeah. Like Aaron took like 17 hours.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
That tracks for both of them. I was born at 2:10 in the afternoon. And I say that's why I like to sleep late.
Ah. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. But I took like 6 hours, I think. My mom says my dad was like right on his way out the door to go to work. So we started having him. And I was perfectly on time on my due date in the middle of the afternoon because I was perfect.
Yeah, when Aaron was born, first of all, I had called that morning and could not get a hold of anybody, and I was feeling really depressed. And I got to call people because I was trying to get my security clearance, and so I had like an hour and a half each day where I could go and make phone calls and try to get information that I needed.
Right, because you weren't there for his birth.
Right.
You were Air Forcing it up.
I had to leave like a week before his due date. And this was probably a week after. Yeah, so this is like a week after his due date. So like 2 weeks later.
Boy.
And so I called and nobody answered the phone, and I was very depressed and tried calling her parents and tried calling my mom. Nobody was home. Nobody answered the phone. And then
They're all dead. Did you think that?
I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I was depressed and yeah, feeling lonely and as you do, going through basic training.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So like oh yeah. So around 5:00 in the evening, our drill sergeant comes in and calls everybody into the meeting room. We don't know what's going on because it's kind of, out of the ordinary time of the day for doing something. And then he started reading a statement and said it was like at 12:20 something this afternoon that Aaron Hollingsworth was born.
So you had to find out with everyone in your whatever. What's it called?
Yeah, squadron.
Okay.
Squadron? Flight. Yeah, flight when I was in the air. It was when I was in basic. Yeah, so like 50 other guys. And, I started crying right there, and everybody was like patting me on the back and congratulating me. And, yeah, so I remember that pretty distinctly.
I bet. Wow. So public.
Very public.
That's gross.
My nickname was Papa after that.
Aw. That's disgusting. So anyways.
So Babysitter's
Club. Janine, who Stacey describes as dull as dishwater. Stacey is hella judgy about a lot of things in this book. Anyway, she bursts in to tell the BSC that they have some competition. 2 8th grade girls have started the Babysitters Agency. And Claudia knows these girls. She says they have smart mouths. They sass the teachers. They hate school. They hang around at the mall. That kind of kid. And
the sass mouths.
The sass mouths. No. Anyways, they recruit even older kids who are allowed to stay out later than the Babysitters Club and girls. And so that's going to be a big point of contention because our girls can only stay out till 9:30 on weekdays, and Marianne and Stacey and Claudia 10 on weekends. Yeah, because they're 12. So yeah. And also, their flyer was a lot better than ours, Stacey said. So people call this Liz and Michelle, the 2 8th graders, when they need sitters. And then those two turn around and find the sitters. So basically, they just do all the phoning around for their clients.
Which that reminded me of the Saddle Club. What was that?
It did me too.
Yeah.
Stevie's whole business.
Yeah.
Yes, it did me too. So they decide that they're going to call the agency and pretend that they need a sitter so they can figure out how the girls operate. This is Mary Ann's idea, and Stacey thinks Mary Ann may be shy, but she sure can come up with some daring ideas.
Yes, those quiet ones. They got stuff going on in their head. They're not going to do it in real life, but if somebody else is willing to do it.
Mm-hmm. We get the lowdown on Stacey and her diabetes and her history with it. Like, she's only been diagnosed with it for like about a year. And she says that she was hungry all the time, like really hungry. She couldn't get filled up, and thirsty too.
Am I the only one that when you hear diabetes, you have to say it in your head like, what's that guy's name?
Wilfred Brimley. Yes.
Diabetes. I got the diabetes.
Got the diabetes. Do you want to say that to Cody all the time? So because of Stacey, not just this book, because it comes up like quite a few times. I always worried when I was getting thirsty when I was younger that I had the diabetes. Because my grandma and my aunt both have type 1 diabetes, so it was always kind of a worry in our family for someone else to get it. But yeah, so if I got thirsty, it's like, oh shit, it might be diabetes.
Yeah. I've got people on in my family on my uncle's side with the diabetes. My cousin that's going through chemo with all that stuff now, she's dealt with a very severe case of diabetes for decades now. I think. Yeah.
I'm sure that makes the cancer all that much easier.
Oh yeah.
Yikes. Twice Stacey wet the bed.
Mm-hmm.
The second time she was sharing a bed with her former best friend in New York City, Lane Cummings. When that happened, Stacey's mom forgot all about, worrying she was having a growth spurt or something, and decides it was all psychological. And they took her to a shrink, and that shrink watched her drink 3 sodas. God damn. So, yeah, the shrink was like, you need to get her to a doctor. She was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. The one thing Stacey will never do is let her new friends in Stony Brook see her give herself an injection. It's just too gross. I didn't like that she said that.
Yeah.
Even though eventually the girls were like, we don't care. It's like, it still puts probably into some kids' heads who do have to do injections.
I can see it as a kid having to go through that, being self-conscious about it. And
so I don't think this book helps that.
People, especially kids, don't like having needles put into them. And so, I can see them wanting to keep that away. My best friend growing up, his mom would just give herself injections in her stomach twice a day. So it was, it was just something you got used to seeing. So
right,
it was not a big like most things in life. You just don't act like it's a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Right, but when you're a kid, you don't think that way.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, having Stacey, who she was the most popular member among girls reading it. And so to have her saying that it's just too gross, I could see that being put on, little girls taking that as, it is something I should be ashamed of.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't like that. I did have a friend named Stacey in middle school who did have type 1 diabetes. It was never a big deal. So her parents became, I don't know how to transition. Her parents became convinced that they could find either a miracle cure or a better treatment for her. They never doubted she had diabetes, but they just couldn't leave it alone. And they made helping Stacey their new goal in life. Maybe that's when they traveled all around America and she just doesn't get into it. Her parents really helped keep shame on this whole diabetes thing. Because they don't tell their best friends, like adult friends, and they don't let, who are Lane's parents, and they don't talk about it at all. And I mean, that's putting it makes it seem like it's a shameful disease or something.
Right, yeah.
So anyways, they moved.
I mean, it kind of shows their ignorance a lot, because they keep trying to look for these miracle cures, and they're keeping it from other people. So it's like they don't really know what it is or how to deal with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was pre-internet.
True.
You know, there was internet around that time, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't like
a big
you
deal.
could get on Ask Jeeves or anything.
And there was no WebMD or. Well, it just means you have to actually either trust the doctors who do know, or you've got to go to a library and put some work in.
Read about it in magazines and stuff, because I know she does that later. Stacey's mom, who's got it going on. I'm sorry. So anyways, they decided to move out to those suburbs to get Stacey out of the city and away from all the sooty air and the dirt and the noise, and away from all the bad times and bad memories, and keeping it secret from all those people. Stacey knew they were overreacting, but she didn't really care. She was ready to get out of there.
Yeah, it sounded like her best friend Lane was...
Yeah. Lane was a bitch at school.
Yeah, I was going to use the C word.
I mean, you can if you want. It's fine. I don't mind.
She was being cuntastic.
Yeah, she was. She made Stacey wasn't dealing with enough. She made Stacey's, life at school pretty much hell. So, yeah. So thank goodness she moved to Stony Brook and got her new best friends.
Yeah, after reading the first couple, it was like, she didn't really seem that much friends with Christy and Mary Ann. But it, in this book, as she's monologuing to herself. What is that called? Is that monologuing? No, that's... Yeah, she was talking about how much friends she was with them, and how she didn't want to move anywhere else because then she'd have to leave her friends.
Yeah, that's like her whole thing on this is like fighting the other club, the agency, is because she doesn't want the Babysitters Club to go away. Yeah. Because she's worried about not having friends.
It's her whole life.
It's her whole life. And it only gets worse from here. So her parents are still not leaving things alone. They've scheduled a new series of tests with a new doctor in New York in December. And he's someone that Uncle Eric heard about on a television program.
Like some Dr. Phil.
Mm-hmm. So Christy loves her an emergency meeting. She really comes into her own in this book. We don't get quite the stereotypical Christy that you'll come to know. I was going to say love and know, but maybe not. Yeah. She's not sitting in the director's chair yet, but she starts rocking the visor and holding the clipboard during one of their many, many emergency meetings in this book. So she decides, hey, we got to mix this up a little. We got to compete now. So she suggests they'll do housework at no extra charge, offer special deals to our best clients, lower rates, and most importantly, they will each make up a kid kit to bring with us when we sit. Would you like to explain what a kid kit is?
Yeah. It's basically just a box that they've decorated. Uh-huh. And it has things like books and games that they can carry with them.
Mm-hmm. So, I know it's not just me. I've read a lot of people say this, but reading it always sounded like it was shoebox sized, even though it couldn't be because you can't fit a board game. No. It's like a little travel one, but it never seems like that. and books and everything inside a shoebox. But so how fucking big is this box?
Yeah, it's got to
be
that
they carry around with them and put on their bikes, and
it's got to be like a moving box size, at least a medium moving box size.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't make sense in my head. I mean, I think it's a good idea. Because Christy points out, how like, oh, everything's so much cooler when you go over to a friend's house, even though their stuff might not be better. It's just new. So that's a great job, Christy. And believe me, the kits stay throughout the series. And then she comes up with number 5. It's to do what the agency does. Find some older kids to take the later jobs or jobs they can't handle. They need older people because, Mrs. Newton doesn't think the Babysitters Club girls are old enough to take care of the new baby Lucy when she comes. And yeah, I don't blame her. 12-year-olds babysitting a newborn seems kind of worrisome.
Really? Any kid whatsoever taking care of a newborn is not a good idea.
Yeah, I had that later on. It's like high schoolers aren't that much older. And
I mean, like teenagers who have their own kids, it's kind of iffy. I mean, you need to do some reading and have some practical knowledge skills classes or something before you do that. I mean, because it's real easy to kill a baby.
It's real easy to kill a baby.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking...
As Jess knows very well.
Shh, don't talk about that. I mean, I think even, like in families with a lot of kids. And so, like, the teenagers have been, like, helping, take care of the baby with mom there and stuff. Yeah. I think I'd still feel... I wouldn't feel good about leaving a 16-year-old alone with a newborn, even though if it's one who's better,
raised other kids, one who's grown up with other babies, and have, changed the diapers, given the feedings, learn how to
with mom there,
get gas, and just how to handle them in general. How
you might be okay with that?
Yeah, okay. Be okay with that. Okay. Even a younger kid. As long as they're physically...
Alone?
As long as they're physically strong enough to be able to do what they need to do with the child. And then, of course, know how to call emergency services if it ever
One would hope.
That. Yeah.
Anyways, Claudia decides that, let's just use 2 of the ideas. The kits and the special deals thing, and save the other ones for last resorts. Stacey goes to sit for her favorite client, Charlotte, and her mom is a doctor, Dr. Johansson, who is awesome throughout the entire series, I believe. She's great. She asks Stacey how she's been feeling, and Stacey's like, if somebody else asks me that, I get annoyed, but not Dr. Johansson, because she's awesome. She brings the kit for the first time, and Charlotte gets super excited about it. But then Stacey's like, hey, let's go walk downtown. And she's torn, but it's like, there's candy downtown. And Stacey had 2 quarters in her pocket, more than enough for 2 pieces of candy. Was there actual, penny candy or something back in the day?
Well,
in 86?
I remember in gas stations they would have the nickel stuff. It'd have you could get a Jolly Rancher or or a piece of gum.
Okay. Yeah. It sounds like a fantasy candy shop, but maybe they had that too. Okay, I'll let that slide.
I don't know that I've ever seen penny candy. Maybe that's a holdover from
that's
Anne
probably
Martin's youth.
I don't think it says penny candy. That's just
it
what
said,
that does it?
No, it said something about
I know that's just something I've read a lot.
That might have just been a terminology for the cheap candy. I don't know.
Yeah. Because there probably was a penny back in the 50s. Yeah. So they walk. They're going to go to the playground on the way back home. But there's a whole bunch of kids, and they start teasing Charlotte, and it's terrible. They're calling her a teacher's pet. Okay, Charlotte shouts at them, I am not the teacher's pet. The next line, Stacey goes, did those kids tease you because they saw you with a babysitter? You were right there. You understood what was Stacey, you're dumb as hell. And then they run into Liz Lewis, the president of the Babysitters Agency, and she's got like hella dope balloons that she's giving out. I mean, it's a pretty good advertising strategy. They have the name and the number of the club on the balloons that she's giving out to kids. I'm like, Liz,
I mean, that could
Liz,
be cheap,
you're
though.
a business lady. No, I'm sure it couldn't have, but it worked. It works because usually the club gets like 14 or 15 jobs a week, but in the last week they've only had 9. Christy says that the Babysitters Agency is the biggest problem we've ever had. It's November. It's legit been 2 months, Christy, and you're being a little overdramatic. Oh, Christy ran into Liz, and according to her, they had exchanged words, which, I mean, I guess they just had an argument, but I choose to believe that Christy just let out a string of swear words and totally cussed her out.
I mean, she grew up around brothers, so that's
Yeah, dog.
plausible.
Stacey and Christy go over to Christy's house one day after school because no jobs. But they find Jamie Newton there with Christy's mom. Then the Newtons had asked her if she'd be able to watch Jamie when the baby arrived, if she arrived at night or while the girls were in school. So apparently Jamie went to work with Christy's mom and she got like no work done. But he had fun. But she's like, yeah, can you guys please watch him now? Because I need to work. And he's seeming really bummed, so they throw him a big brother party. Spur of the moment. With all this shit and all these kids. And it's like, all right. That's how the Babysitters Club rolls. So Mr. Newton calls, and it's a girl named Lucy Jane. Oh, and Jamie lets the girls know that Mommy had called a girl and said, we need an older sitter for the new baby. Stacey goes, this, I narrowed my eyes and set my jaw, means war. How often are the parents of a newborn going to be like, going off and doing stuff without the baby?
Yeah, I mean,
like, why should this even be that big of a problem? I mean, Mrs. Newton's setting it up like, yeah, I'm going to be leaving her twice a week or so.
I mean, you know, there was a period of time where you had a baby and then it became the nanny's problem.
True.
But this is the 90s.
80s.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the 80s.
Yeah.
That's not happening unless you're like ultra rich.
Right. And even the ultra rich people, we learn use babysitters in Stony Brook. So, So they've got a new flyer out, the Babysitters Agency, and it says, want to earn fast money the easy way? And Christy's just very indignant about this, fast money the easy way. Liz must be crazy. Really, that girl isn't playing with a full deck. Oh, and when they get inside school, there's a counter and a big sign on the wall said the Babysitters Agency, sign up here. I mean, they're really going after to get new kids, all sorts of babysitters for them to hire. And Chrissy's like, fuck, I don't care what any of you are doing after school. She's calling a triple emergency club meeting. She's like, we can talk about those other ideas, but now we got to start recruiting more members. 8th graders for our club. They never seem to think about high schoolers, only 8th graders. Like, that's going to make that big of a difference. But, hey, let's give thanks. This Thanksgiving. The McGills don't go to New York like they had originally been planning to. And Stacey's pretty bummed about that. But they have a nice, cozy time at home. And they go out the next day, of course, to go shopping. And Stacey says, for some reason, the day after Thanksgiving is the biggest Christmas shopping day of the season. I don't know why, but I love to shop. Would this girl not know about Black Friday? Seriously? I mean, that's like all her And her mom did in New York.
That wasn't a huge thing in the 80s, though.
It wasn't?
No.
Oh.
That didn't become big till, I guess, sometime in the 90s.
Well, then why was it the biggest?
There were Thanksgiving sales.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it wasn't advertised as like, this is the day to shop.
Yeah.
And they didn't like half prices on stuff just to get people through the door. It was just like a regular President's Day sale,
I'll look it up.
But then, it was a 4-day weekend, a month before Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, people would go out shopping. And a lot of times they'd have family with them, so they, looking for something to do.
Right.
I can remember the kids being small when they started giving coverage to people waiting in line for sales.
Yeah, when things started getting dicey.
Yeah.
Around Tickle Me Elmo days.
Yeah,
those times.
And people storming stores and injuring employees and stuff. Yeah.
And then they had to make Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. Sign of the times.
It was first appeared in 1975. Although it still specifically refers to it as the busiest shopping and traffic day of the year. Okay. The Philadelphia Inquirer reported in 1985 that retailers in Cincinnati and Los Angeles were still unaware of the term. Okay, Stacey, I'll give it to you. But she really could have just thought about it and realized there were sales, right? I mean, come on. So anyways, they go out and they shop, and at lunch, Stacey learns about this new doctor that they're going to make her go see in New York called Dr. Barnes. And she's like, I'd really like to check with my doctor here. And her dad goes, Stacey, you are not in charge here. Your mother and I make the decisions. I don't like that at all. I mean, I know it's kind of resolved later. But I think it's gross that she's 12 and not able to make any decisions or have opinions about her health. Would you have let your kids have opinions?
Oh yeah, I mean, I always I encouraged my kids to argue with me, not just for argument's sake, but if they could actually convince me to change my mind, then I would change my mind. Otherwise, I had to convince them of why, this is why you can't do that, or, but I actively encourage them to think about it. And, if you think I'm wrong, try to convince me that I'm wrong.
But your way is very open-minded. I mean, I can, I think a middle ground would, I think your way is great, actually, personally.
Yeah, but, I mean, like their stepdad, just any time that they were told to do something, they were expected just to do it because he said to do it. And then actually told them that they were being disrespectful for talking back to him when they were trying to convince him why. I'm like, that's the way I've raised my kids. That's just the way they are. If you can't support your, what you're saying, then don't just say because I told you so. Yeah. And I absolutely hated that as a kid.
Oh, yeah. Toads.
Why? Why are we... Why this? Because I told you so.
That's lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it bothered me so much because I remember an argument with my dad, and I was probably 14 or so. He was worried about me eating, and he said that I had to eat. And I was like, why? It's my body. If I don't, I was argumentative. But he said, it's not your body. And something like that. It's like, you're my kid and you're not an adult, so it's not your body. And so that pissed me the fuck off, and it still pisses me off. And so I guess that's why I have such a negative reaction to him saying your mother and I make the decisions.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, more good news. He's a holistic doctor, and Stacey really freaks out about that. She's like, holistic, holy, a faith healer? You're taking me to a religious person for a miracle? Mom and Dad had considered some pretty desperate things over the months, but nothing like faith healing. But her dad's like, no, for pity's sake, no. And he explains how holistic medicine deals with the whole body, with a person as a whole.
Body and mind.
Made up not just of physical parts, but of mental, emotional, environmental, nutritional, which could either be good or bad, depending on the doctor, I think.
Yeah, and it was kind of like what they were saying about the doctor, that when the other doctors were talking about it, he's not going to do something that's going to really hurt,
right,
but it might not actually help.
Right.
And it's going to be very expensive while you're doing it.
Exactly. Anyways, they're going to go to New York for 5 days. But they are planning some fun stuff. Like they get to go see a musical and go see the tree at Rockefeller Center. So it's not all bad. But Stacey does talk to Dr. Johansson about this and talks to her about her worries and stuff. And she says that Stacey wasn't really far wrong. She's heard of this Dr. Barnes guy, and while he does call himself a holistic doctor, he practically is a faith healer. But yeah, then she says, he's just a fad doctor, getting a lot of publicity right now, but not going to hurt her. Like, he won't touch her insulin or change her diet much, maybe a little. But what he is going to do is recommend all sorts of expensive programs and therapies designed to make your life as positive and fulfilling and healthy as possible. He'll tell your parents that this will enable you to rid your body of the disease. That's the scary part. I mean, I think that's the scary part of like homeopathy stuff and irresponsible essential oil sellers saying, use this and you don't need your doctor prescribed treatments and stuff. Right. That's where that stuff gets really scary, and people do that.
Yeah, things like that can make you feel better, and there are vitamins that you can take, and it will help you. It will make your body better, but it's not going to cure you.
It's not going to cure you, and I think just the most irresponsible part is saying you don't need all these terrible chemicals in your body.
Yeah.
That Big Pharma is selling you. And just do our plan. Yeah. Sorry, that makes me very, very angry.
But, at the same time, it's not like Pharma doesn't have a vested interest in some of these things.
Right.
But there are, especially with diseases, that there's not a secondary cure, and even things that work sometimes they don't even know why it works.
Right.
You just know over time. It's the whole thing with the stuff for MS.
Capaxone that I was on.
Yeah. Uh-huh. They don't know why it works.
Yeah.
They have theories of what it's doing.
Yeah, I've read that about a couple of things. Dr. Johansson says, "It's my belief that no special program is going to rid your body of diabetes." It's not a belief, though. That's science. Because she has type 1. Like, I know with type 2 diet and all that sort of stuff, you can get rid of it for as long as you're taking care of yourself that way.
Diet and exercise, mainly.
Yeah. You can regulate yourself. But with type 1, it's totally different. But she says, let her think on it, and she can't intervene directly because she's not her doctor. But before she leaves for New York, she'll do something. She just needs to think for a while. Okay, back to the fighting between the BSC and the BSA. Christy made each of them wear a sandwich board to school.
Now, this is horrifying to me.
I know.
And I mean, I can especially see like Mary Ann, how in the world I would have gotten sick so sick I couldn't walk to school.
I would have just stood there and cried.
I would have just gone home and said, I can't go to school today.
Yeah. But they guilt her into doing it. Our poor little anxious Mary Ann. Because the front says, "Join the best club around," and the part on their back says, it has the block design that Claudia did with the baby.
If you don't know what a sandwich board is, look it up. It's basically like
2 pieces of poster board.
Yeah, that's one on the front, one on the back.
And string goes over your shoulders.
Yeah, you can tie it together with rope or tape or whatever. And then you put it over your neck.
And Christy wants them to wear it the whole day, all around school. And they talk her down to in the lunch line and through the halls during class. And it's super embarrassing. And I don't believe Marianne would have been able to do it. Stacey mentions that one of those classes she's in is advanced French. I was in the advanced class because in my school in New York, we've been given French lessons since kindergarten, which is awesome. I love schools like that. But it's never mentioned again in the series. They go to freaking Europe in one super special, and oh no, there's no mention of Stacey being fucking fluent. But guess what? Pete Black, her somewhat boyfriend, asked her to the snowflake dance, which, god damn, these times we're living in. That sounds totally different now. Yeah. The snowflake dance. It's like, oh no, a bunch of triggered liberals are dancing around. Oh no. That sounds awesome to me. I'd go to that. But so most of them, it didn't do any good, embarrassing themselves. But Christy got 2 new members, and they're both 8th graders. They used to be part of the agency, but they dropped out because they didn't like it. And the other girls were like, do you know anything about these girls? Her name, Janet and Leslie. And she's like, no. And she's already told them they could be members. And they're like, that sounds really risky. Like, they had questions about Stacey when they first formed the club. Mm-hmm. But Christy's just like desperate at this point. She goes, too late now. We'll just have to take our chances. And they hadn't gotten a single call that whole meeting while they were talking about this. They have a wrapping party for Jamie and Lucy. Well, they got Lucy gifts, of course, but they also got Jamie gifts for being a big brother. But they have this whole party to wrap gifts together since they're unemployed now, basically. And okay, here's where Judgy Stacey comes out. They go over to the Newtons, and we stepped through the door. I was surprised to see that Mrs. Newton still looked, well, fat. Not pregnant exactly, but not the way I thought she would look after the baby was born. Maybe Anne is just trying to give us some realness here, but damn, that was a bitchy way to do it. Mrs. Newton, poor fat Mrs. Newton, gives them the lowdown, saying that for the next few months she'll just really feel more comfortable leaving Lucy with an older sitter. Like, there will be times
that she knows nothing
about. There will be times when she'll take Lucy with her. There's just Jamie to sit for, and she'll totally use the BSC girls for that. But yeah, it still blows my mind. They're not that much older, and she knows nothing about them. And why is she leaving her goddamn baby with strangers, newborns?
I think Aaron was probably close to 2 years old before he stayed with anybody.
Yeah.
And we went out without him.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty normal from what I've heard. All right, here and so Stacey's all judgy again when she meets Janet and Leslie for the first time. They ask them about like how much babysitting they've done, and Janet goes, oh, tons. She was chewing a wad of gum and she cracked it loudly. And Leslie looked bored and had shaggy hair, and I noticed she was wearing makeup. A lot of it. Did you read that as all super judgy? Because I certainly did.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know if it's stating fact or if it's being judgy, I guess. I guess pretty much any time you meet new people, especially people that you really don't know about, you're probably picking out things to try.
Especially middle school girls. So they're like, okay, we're going to come up with a new version of the flyer. And, Christy's mom is over there at her office copying for them again. But it seems to work. At the Friday meeting, they got 4 babysitting jobs, and 2 were for late night ones for Janet and Leslie over the weekend. And so everyone's really excited to hear how that went, but they don't show up for the Monday meeting. Then, surprise, they get calls from those clients saying that they never showed, either of them. And we never hear from these clients again, so they really fucked them over. And Chrissy's like, we need to confront them in person. But Janet and Leslie, they just laugh, and they're like, we tricked you. And they're still actually members of the agency. And Stacey gets so hyped up at one point, she calls them dirty businesswomen. No! And Stacey's still really judgy about Janet's gum. She's like, she must have like 12 pieces of gum in her mouth. So the girls they're still trying to do their best to compete with the agency, but in the end, they take care of their own downfall. They learn from Jamie how, like, they'll just watch TV and smoke cigarettes, burning a hole in a couch cushion, and invite their boyfriends over.
Talk on the phone.
What? Yeah, and talk on the phone all night.
Which, I mean, honestly, when I was a teenager, that was probably my idea of babysitting.
Yeah, I think so. So Stacey tells Jamie to tell his mom all this. I'm curious that he didn't do it before. Like, did they threaten him or something? Because 3-year-olds can't keep secrets for shit.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, it would seem like they would have to have said something. Right?
Yeah. But apparently not. Then Stacey goes over to sit for Charlotte, and Charlotte's all mad at her. Because one of the new sisters in Charlotte's class told her that Stacey only sits for the money. And so she thought they were friends, and she's very upset. But they make up. Dr. Johansson has come up with a plan. Stacey came up with a plan with Dr. Johansson's help. Stacey's going to go see that holistic guy, but then she's going to tell her parents that she's been researching herself and that Dr. Johansson has this other doctor to recommend, and she'll surprise them after seeing this guy. It's like, and tell him I've got an appointment already with him. It's like, okay, ballsy. So Stacey herself calls an emergency meeting to tell the other girls about what Jamie and Charlotte had told her. It's so secret they go in the middle of the baseball field in 3 inches of snow because they couldn't let anybody else hear this. I don't know. But on the way home on this snowy day, they find Jamie right next to the street with no hat or gloves. And that really worries the girls. And I can't blame them for that.
Yeah.
Because,
a 3-year-old.
A 3-year-old outside. Yeah, while the babysitter's
proper protection.
Inside doing who knows what or whom, right. I guess. So the girls, they, make sure he's okay. Tell him to go play out back with gloves and hats and stuff. And then they talk it over with the adults in their lives. And they're like, yeah, we need to talk to Mrs. Newton. And they tell her everything. And she's horrified. Thank God. And she tells them that she's going to tell all the other parents. And she wants to talk to the agency girls. But Chrissy's like, no, let us do it. And they ambush the president and the other one at school, telling them all about Jamie. And then the BSC girls, they start quizzing the other girls on the clients. Like, what's, Jamie's favorite food or something like that. And it's like, there's no way they would know this stuff.
What's Charlotte's favorite TV show?
Yeah. Yeah. Which, aside from they ask about knowing what Nina Marshall's allergy is, that's the thing a babysitter should know, which they didn't. But, they just met these kids. How would they know that shit? It doesn't prove anything, but, it does seem to make them feel better.
It makes them feel superior.
Yeah. So Stacey's off to New York with the Judy Blume book in the backseat of the car. Yay. You appreciated that. You're like, even she knows. Judy Blume's awesome. But her parents have a terrible surprise. They're staying with the Cummings, meaning she's going to have to share a room with her ex-best friend, Lane. And the McGills have finally decided to tell them about the shameful diabetes. They don't fight, but they're kind of... Stacey's bitchy to Lane. Lane's just kind of quiet. They go see this holistic doctor, and it's normal at first. He does like blood tests and all that sort of thing. And then she has to do some psych and maybe an IQ test. She's not really sure. And she never sees the actual doctor. Her parents did, but they seem kind of weird about it. But they go to lunch and... Well, not lunch. It's like really late. But she tells her parents about her new doctor and give them Dr. Johansson's letter.
Yeah, it's like 4 o'clock. She's telling them about a meeting at 5.
Yeah. Yeah, so they gotta hustle because they take it well. Shockingly.
Yeah, apparently whatever the guy said to them.
Yeah, they didn't like him too much.
Made them second guess maybe they're making a mistake. And
probably money.
Yeah. Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, he was trying to sell them on a plan. But anyway, so they have to hustle over to make that appointment with Dr. Graham, who is hella dope. This doctor's a good guy. And her parents like him because he has lots of degrees, and Stacey's mom's even heard of him. He seems like a really nice guy, and he just asks Stacey questions, doesn't do any tests or anything. And he figures out that Stacey's only problem is that she doesn't feel like she has enough control taking care of her own diabetes. And he says that the other doctor is a load of bunk. So this all turns out to be okay with her parents, and they come to an agreement about, letting Stacey have more control over her own body. Thank you. That's all good, but they're still staying with the Cummings, and things are all salty between Lane and Stacey. But they do eventually make up in a movie theater lobby because Stacey goes to get concessions and only has $1. When small popcorn and a tab soda were $1.75. She'd forgotten how expensive New York City prices were. She could have gotten that for Stony Brook for like 95 cents. So Lane lends her the 75 cents.
Yeah, so we talked about that pricing, and I think that's... I don't know if Anne just hadn't been to the movies in a while, but I was working at a movie theater in like 88, so just a couple of years after... this book was written
in a small town.
In a town of like 17,000 people, so a little 2-screen theater, and it was like $1.75 for like a small drink. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
yeah, and Anne lived in New York. I mean, she was living there, so she should know the prices.
Yeah.
By the way, $1.75 is $4 today. Could you imagine getting a popcorn and a drink at the movies for $4? So they make up and it's all nice, and they call each other on the phone, which also bothered you because you were worried about long distance, which was probably pretty expensive then. But Lane's rich, so who cares? And Stacey says, if Lane ever came to visit me in Stony Brook, I would make her an honorary member of the Babysitters Club. Christy would never fucking allow that to happen. Let me tell you. And yeah, we'll hear more from Lane later on in the series. And turns out she is an absolute bitch. Yeah. And the other girls from the BSA, they start like this on-demand beauty service in your home thing, which I think actually sounds kind of awesome. Like they'll come over and do your nails and like give you advice and yeah.
And they'll even take you for an extra $5, take you shopping.
Yeah.
So they can
they're like your
teach
stylist.
you how to pick out clothes.
Yeah. Like that. That sounds like a pretty good gig. I think they're going to go places.
Yeah, but they also seem like kind of bitchy people who would make fun of people.
Oh, probably.
While they were trying to pick out clothes. And so I don't know that I would want to hang out with them and let them.
I think it would depend on how cool they were in their grade.
Ah, gotcha.
Because like teenage girls will take a lot from cool girls. Mean girls.
Right.
Yeah. So, did you ever do anything like that like people copied?
Yeah, I can't think of any instances. I'm taking it you have thought about this?
I have.
Yeah, and somebody did?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I'm honestly wondering if my indignation about this might stem from this book. Because they got upset, so maybe I should too. But in 3rd grade, a bunch of friends wanted to start a cheerleading team. I don't know why. There weren't any sports in elementary school. There weren't teams, But, yeah, they're like, they're cool. But I didn't want to do it. I was too shy. So I said I was going to be like the manager and like do their choreography and stuff. So we started that, and it was fun. But a bunch of other girls started their own, and I got so fucking pissed. I started to march over. I don't know where I got the balls for it, but indignation. I started to march across the playground to go, I don't know, yell at them. And my teacher stopped me.
Oh.
Yeah. And he, gave me a whole lesson on, imitation is the highest form of flattery. And I thought that was total bullshit, but
you just wanted to be in control.
I just probably wanted to be in control.
You wanted them
I
to
probably
do your chairs.
did.
You wanted more people for doing your chairs.
Oh shit, you're probably right. Thank you for psychoanalyzing 8-year-old me, but you're totally right. I didn't make any more trouble though, because I wouldn't want to get in trouble.
Right.
My teacher caught me, so that was the end of that. I don't remember what happened with it, but you're totally right. Because it's the shy, quiet ones who are dangerous. Secretly want to be in control. Okay, the worst thing about this book, for a Babysitter's Club book, there is no fashion alert. She mentions at one point buying a pin to put on her, a dinosaur pin, to put on her beret. But that doesn't warrant, I don't think.
Right.
Even though enamel pins now are very cool. Berets, not so much.
Well, do you want to describe the outfit that's on the front cover?
I mean, it's terrible. It's a nope from me, but I suppose it's very... I mean, does that seem like something girls in middle school, high school would have worn? Then it's
Maybe.
very frumpy looking. It's like a long sleeve, well, it's like a green sweatshirt. And over it, Stacey's wearing, I mean, what even is that? It's a short sleeve button down. Yeah. With designs on it. It's not Hawaiian print, but that's how it comes off. Yeah, it's just terrible.
And big yellow sunglasses.
Big sunglasses. And obviously I'll put the picture up as our cover art on Instagram. But while they're picking out candy, her and Charlotte. But yeah, okay. Boo, 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 boo. Nope. You?
Nope. I mean, it looks comfortable, though.
It looks comfortable, but Stacey's supposed to be so very sophisticated and so very into fashion. I don't think I thought it was cool back in the day. Anyway, so that's all I got. You got anything else? No?
Yeah, I guess if I spent time actually preparing, maybe.
Maybe so.
I would.
But y'all, let me tell you how this boy, he crammed last night. He read this whole book in a few hours, and I was really proud of him. Great job. Okay, then. So, hey, you. Not you. But you listening to this. I'm speaking directly to you. What's up, awesome nerds? Hey, I love you. And if you even just kind of like us, hey, please do me a favor. Please tell your friends and share our episodes and retweet us on Twitter and all your social media platforms, outlets. all your online friends. Let them know about us if you like us. We'll be forever in your debt. And just as important, please rate us on iTunes. We still don't have any ratings yet, and that's like so important. It's the best way to help a podcast out. Get us going on iTunes, and it only takes a minute. Otherwise, subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, all the podcast places. And check out our website at fightingoverthecardcatalog.com. Find us on Facebook and Instagram at Fighting Over the Card Catalog, Twitter at Card Catalog Pod, and email us if you'd like at fightingoverthecardcatalog@gmail.com. I just realized I haven't picked out a book yet for next week. So it's going to be a surprise. Where were you reading? Where were you reading the books of your childhood?
So you don't have to.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.